Hello, everybody. All right. Hello, my name is Paige Collins. I know it says Paige D, but it's Paige C. And I'm powerless over drugs and alcohol, and today I choose recovery. Hello. Um, Please join me in prayer. So, dear Heavenly Father, I thank you for this opportunity to share your story. I ask that you use my story to touch at least one person's soul in this room so the darkness I experienced was not in vain. I lift up those who are still sick and suffering in Jesus' name. Amen. So, my life before recovery was a life of emptiness. For as long as I can remember, I had something missing in my life. It may have stemmed from my divided family that I was born into, having to feel the tension when my parents spoke negatively about each other in front of me, and it was confusing. I didn't know what was truth, what was resentment, and what was anger. I was born and raised in Texas with a brother who was 4 years older than me, and at a very young age, I feared anger because of what I witnessed between my parents and eventually my mom and my brother. Both of my parents drank alcohol regularly. I guess it's safe to say they are functioning alcoholics, but I noticed their behaviors changed when they started drinking, and I thought this was normal. At the age of 10, my grandpa on my dad's side of the family died, and this was my first encounter with death. I still didn't quite understand death at that time, but I knew I didn't want to feel the pain I witnessed my family experiencing. This started my fear of pain. On this same day, my mom was drinking and started fighting with my brother. The police were called, and my dad arrived to pick up my brother. Another division in the family. This is the reoccurring theme in my life. At the age of 12, my mom decided to move to North Carolina to be closer to my mama. Having to tell a judge, I choose to move states away from my dad, brother, school, and friends, birthed emotional and mental stress for me. This divide is what set my addiction in motion mentally. Excuse me. I hated the fact that my dad was hurt. My mom didn't seem to care that much. My first visit with my dad after moving to North Carolina, my brother asked me if I wanted to get high. He started selling marijuana in high school, so he always had it on him. It took a few times of him smoking in front of me before he invited me to partake. This gave me a sense of being accepted and being a part of the cool kids club. It was new and exciting. I loved the laughing effect it gave me because it covered up my inner sadness. This set in motion an obsession that I would possess for most of my young life. By 16 years old, I was buying Xanax, Adderall, and/or oxycodone from students. I smoked marijuana every day and drank on the weekends at house parties with people who were much older than me. I would skip school and not come home for days at a time, and my mom would blow my phone off the hook and I would just turn it off. Paige did what Paige wanted to do. No one could stop me until the local law enforcement caught up with me. I was arrested 3 times by the age of 17. I was expelled from the school I was enrolled in and ended up dropping out as soon as I turned 18 with 1 semester left to complete. All I needed to do was complete my senior project and I could get my high school diploma. But I had a point to prove that I was stubborn. The first guy I met after dropping out, I latched on for dear life because I had burned my bridges with my family. 3 months after living with him at his mom's house, I discovered I was pregnant. So I did what every smart 18-year-old girl does and married him. In December of 2010, instead of graduating high school, I had a beautiful baby girl. Me and her grew very close as me and her dad grew apart. My addiction progressed to harder painkillers and IV use. When I had become physically dependent on them, temporary guardianship went to my mom, who had moved back to Texas. My pain pill addiction migrated to methamphetamines. This is when I lost everything: my sanity, my shelter, and my care for life. This led to many arrests and a prison sentence. I tried recovery at a local organization, but it was not faith-based. During this time, I relapsed, but I justified it by telling myself alcohol is legal. Alcohol became my best friend. It was not the same as drugs, and it never got old for me. I still have a bunch of yets when it comes to alcohol. I knew it wasn't if, it was when. There were a couple of times when God was looking over me when I had been pulled over and should have been arrested. He knew I needed a different intervention, the gift of desperation. So one night when I had been drinking, my cousin let me borrow her car to go to the store. I was going to the dope man's house. My daughter was visiting with me while I was living at my cousin's house, and I did not come home and turn my phone off, just like I did when I was a teenager. Worried about where I was, my cousin called my daughter's dad, and he came to pick her up when I arrived. Everyone was so upset with me, and I didn't see what the big deal was. I expected everyone to go back to normal. I'm an addict. Everyone should know and be okay with my destructive behaviors. How selfish. The pain I bore witness to in my daughter was heartbreaking. She did not want to leave me and held on so tight. This is the hard part, sorry. Her dad had to peel her arms off of me and place her gently in his truck. It wasn't just the pain I saw, but it was the pain I caused that drove the want to change. I was tired of hurting those around me. I called my mom the next day, and she linked me with the intake coordinator at St. Matthew's House for a phone screening. I was informed less than 2 days later I was accepted into Jill's place. What had happened was, when I had heard my application was accepted, I was overcome with peace. I knew in my spirit that this was it. I believed in God, but my relationship was hanging by a thread. When my daughter's father heard I had been accepted into a year-long faith-based women's recovery program in Naples, Florida, he allowed me to spend the remaining time in North Carolina with my daughter. The moment I became willing, God was so eager to show me he was going to restore everything I was leaving 100-fold. God has a funny way of doing for me what I can't do for myself. Upon arriving in Florida, I was feeling the lingering detox of methadone. The 2/5 of liquor helped subside the physical withdrawal from the methadone until I had to drink my last drop. June 7th of 2020 was the last day I had put a substance into my body. I entered Jill's Place Women's Recovery Program the following day. When I saw how many women were in one house, the feeling of regret started to creep in. There were roughly 20 females sharing bunk beds in a 5-bedroom house. My thoughts were, surely not this many females can live in this limited space without drama. I wanted to say I was scared, but the onset of the shakes and nausea overrode all fear. I knew what to expect when it came to being sick, so I was patient with myself, and so was everyone around me. It took 5 weeks to get a full night's rest at Jill's Place. The structure and rules set at Jill's Place was a wake-up call for me. Besides, I'm used to couch surfing, sleeping in all hours of the day, staying up all hours of the night, and drinking lots of alcohol. I couldn't cuss, I couldn't have my phone, and I couldn't leave the property to go to the store on my own. Instead, I was given a Bible, homework, and chores. It was mandatory that we go to Bible study, church, and AA meetings. I hated it. We worked out of a 12-step workbook that went on and on about honesty, willingness, and open-mindedness. I was often reminded when taking my own will back that I needed to turn it over. The first 3 steps I had to do repeatedly throughout my day. This helped me when I wanted to control the outcome of any situation I believe was not going the way it should. Page 417 of the AA Big Book became my lifeline, and acceptance is the answer to all my problems today. All y'all. Leaning on my higher power, who I call Jesus Christ, helped me go through trials while in the program. There were times I wanted to walk down the road to the handy with nothing but a couple of dollars in change to buy a tall boy just to feel some relief. But something different was happening. I was playing the tape all the way through. Suddenly, I started to care about what happened after chasing a drink or a drug. The image of me being homeless with nothing in Alva, Florida, didn't appeal to me when before I wouldn't have thought twice. I started becoming aware of God's grace through these difficult moments. I recognized I could get past the thought of a drink and not give in to a craving. I didn't know this was possible. I did some good step work with the staff and a thorough relapse prevention plan through the guided Genesis process. This helped me identify my triggers, relapse scenarios, and create accountability cards. When I graduated Genesis, it was the time for me to take what I learned and started applying it to my recovery. I found a home church at Citygate Ministries downtown Fort Myers. Whoop. They didn't judge me for being in recovery and wanted to disciple me as I strengthened my relationship with God. I started serving on the Connect team and greeting members of the church every Sunday morning. I also attended ARC at Citygate every Wednesday night at 6:30. ARC is an acronym for Accountability Recovery Community. This is a meeting that works through the 12 steps and highlights the biblical principles for anyone who struggles with sin and believes they can find freedom through Jesus Christ. The Women of Worth Women's Meeting every Tuesday night at the Shores campus helped develop meeting ethic in me for when I started exploring other meetings. The strong women in that group stressed the importance of having a sponsor, using your sponsor, working the steps, service work, and meeting attendance. This has been instilled in me. It became real when I heard the stories of the ones who were lucky to make it back to the rooms after going on another run. They all say the same thing. I stopped going to meetings, I stopped working the steps, and I didn't pick up the phone to call another recovering alcoholic or addict. I know I am in trouble if I start thinking it will be different for me when the thoughts of a drink or a drug come creeping in. I wanted a tribe around me that knows when something is off. Those who will ask me the difficult questions and tell me what I don't want to hear, but what I need to hear. When I was looking for a sponsor, I was told to observe how they walk their talk. I admired my sponsor's honesty. I wanted to be able to speak my truth without fear of what others thought. She did just this and was so cute while doing it. My sponsor has a nurturing heart and love for all creatures. This is what I wanted for myself and for others. Me and my sponsor joke about living in steps 6 and 7. When my character defects rear their ugly head, she reminds me in step 7 that I just need to humbly ask God to remove these defects of character. It's my responsibility to identify them and ask for removal. It's His responsibility to remove them. It's His problem. It's His problem. I wanted to work the steps so that they became second nature. I wanted them to be my way of life. My sponsor and tribe helped me with this. When my emotions start to overtake my mind, they point me to the steps and the cross. I would not be where I am today if it weren't for the amazing people God has brought into my life. And what my life is like now. Today I have a life second to none. Jesus has come in and completely rearranged all my life from the inside out. I am a case manager at the very place I couldn't wait to get away from when I first stepped foot on the property. I get to bear witness to the women who come in broken, hopeless, and defeated. I get to facilitate step class 1, 2, and 3, the same steps I had to work numerous times a day just to maintain my sanity. I am currently attending college at City Vision to get my associate's degree in addiction counseling, and I will continue towards my bachelor's in ministry and leadership after I am certified in counseling. On February 17th of this year, I got married to the love of my life. He's right there, by the way. Marrying your best friend is truly a gift. We have experienced God's favor through our many adventures together and a life free from the destruction of drugs and alcohol. We are both in recovery, working steps and attending meetings together. We both have sponsors and spiritual mentors that help us in our spiritual and recovery development. We have currently started doing inner child work to further our healing, and this has deepened our intimacy with others, ourselves, and each other. Communication and honesty are what I apply to my relationships today. This is something I did not have before Jesus in the 12 steps. These are some of the basic highways of letting others know when you need help, to be heard, or need space. I can speak my truth today in love without thoughts of guilt or worrying about what others think. This is a gift from the Lord. I'm no longer plagued by people pleasing or manipulating people in the room to make sure I am comfortable. I am free from that today. My identity comes from who Christ says I am. I attend AA meetings weekly, meet with my sponsor monthly for step work or other challenges I need to work through, and go to church. I do service work and reach out to other alcoholics and addicts throughout my day. This helps me feel connected and centered in the fold. I text my sponsor 5 gratefuls every day. Most of the time, I fall short. This is an honest program. 5 gratefuls every day, which is good for my thought patterns, especially if I'm being ungrateful. This has helped me to have authentic relationships in my life. At Citygate, I serve on the nursery team, which was a shock that I was even thought of to be a good candidate. I feared my 3-time convicted felon self would be denied and allowed nowhere near the babies at church. But God, the children's pastor, explained that they know everyone has a past. Of course, there are some deal breakers when it comes to watching over babies, but I was not one of them. This was a display of God's love for me and what his son did for me on the cross. My past does not define who I am today and has been washed clean. I was chosen even with a rap sheet like mine. I am also a group leader at my home group meeting, ARC, on Wednesday nights. I have given my testimony and helped younger women start their steps. My daughter is 13 years old now. That's the one who looked like me, that's her. She's the better looking one. My daughter is 13 years old. She does not live with me full time, but when she comes to visit, she has her own room in a healthy environment. She attends meetings and groups with us and even serves. On Wednesday nights before the ARC meeting would start, she would pray over the group leaders and pray for the still sick and suffering. If I have done anything right in this life, it is bringing her to the knowledge of our Lord Jesus Christ. She is a prayer warrior and loves the Lord. Wherever we go, whether it is church, meetings, or work, she feels the love. This is the same love that I get to experience every day. I don't ever want to forget that. My family is beyond proud of me. Nobody was ready for the transformation that took place. I think my family just wanted the drinking and drugs to stop, but what I needed was spiritual healing. To maintain this spiritual life, I must practice spiritual disciplines. Quiet time, prayer, and reading the word keeps me connected to Jesus. Guided imagery and meditation helps me experience a relationship with Christ as if he were with me 24/7. Practicing the presence of God keeps me in the moment. If I start dwelling in the past or worrying about the future, I am not in his presence. Being in the here and now allows me full access to all of his fruits and the gifts of heaven. It is truly like his word says in Psalms 84:10, better is one day in your courts than 1,000 elsewhere. I do not want another day without him in my life. So, it is my turn to say, for those of you who are listening, get a sponsor, use your sponsor, go to meetings, work the steps, and serve your fellows. You will experience the 9th step promises and be amazed before you are halfway through. Don't leave before the miracle happens. Always remember that your pain is not in vain and that God will work it out for the good of his glory. And thank you to everyone who is here tonight and to all those who believed in me when I could not believe in myself.